The National Electrical Code, or NEC, doesn't explicitly prohibit having two electrical panels with different ratings in separate locations within a single dwelling. However, there are code sections that could be interpreted to support a local jurisdiction's requirement for a unified service disconnect. Section 225.30a of the NEC mandates that the service disconnecting means be situated in a readily accessible location nearest to the point where the supply conductors enter the building. This could be interpreted as meaning that all service disconnecting means for a single residence must be located together. Secondly, NEC Section 225.35 requires service disconnecting means to be installed in a manner accessible to qualified personnel without the need to remove obstacles or use portable ladders or climbing devices. This, too, could be interpreted to mean a centralized and accessible location for all service disconnects. It is important to note that local jurisdictions, such as counties or municipalities, often adopt and enforce the NEC, and they may introduce local amendments that are more stringent than the base NEC requirements. These amendments can vary significantly. It is possible that the county has adopted a local amendment that specifically requires all service disconnecting means for a single residence to be located in the same location and to be of the same size. It is crucial to verify this by contacting the county building department and inquiring about any such amendments. If no such local amendments exist, it may be possible to persuade the county to approve the proposed installation. An argument could be made that the proposed setup aligns with the intent of the NEC by providing a readily accessible and safe method to disconnect power to the entire residence. Furthermore, it could be argued that the proposed installation is more cost-effective than installing a new, larger service and panels specifically for the addition. Ultimately, the decision rests with the county building department. A direct conversation with them is necessary to discuss the specifics of the proposed installation and to determine if it will be approved. It is important to have a clear understanding of all applicable codes and regulations before proceeding with any electrical work. When considering multiple panels, several factors come into play beyond the basic code requirements. These include load calculations, proper grounding and bonding, and ensuring adequate working space around the panels. Load calculations are essential to determine the appropriate size of the service and the individual panels. The total load of the residence must be calculated according to NEC methods, taking into account all connected and likely future loads. This calculation will determine the minimum ampacity required for the service conductors and the main overcurrent protection device. Each panel must also have sufficient capacity to handle the loads it serves. This involves calculating the load on each panel and ensuring that the panel's ampacity rating is adequate. Grounding and bonding are critical for electrical safety. The grounding system provides a path for fault current to return to the source, tripping the overcurrent protection device and preventing electrical shock hazards. The bonding system ensures that all metallic parts of the electrical system are at the same potential, reducing the risk of shock. The NEC specifies detailed requirements for grounding and bonding, including the size and type of grounding conductors, the location of ground rods, and the bonding of metallic enclosures and equipment. Proper working space around electrical panels is essential for safety and accessibility. The NEC requires that sufficient clear space be provided in front of electrical panels to allow for safe operation and maintenance. This clear space must be free of obstructions and must extend at least 36 inches from the front of the panel. The width of the clear space must be at least 30 inches, or the width of the equipment, whichever is greater. The height of the clear space must be at least 6 feet 6 inches, or the height of the equipment, whichever is greater. In the specific scenario described, there are several key considerations. Firstly, the existing 200 amp single-phase panel in the basement is being affected by the addition, as the wall where it is located will become an interior wall. The proposal involves adding a service disconnect switch outside and the new wall and feeding the existing panel. The intention is to reduce the load in the existing panel, leaving a calculated load of approximately 18.5 kV amps. The existing 200 amp main breaker would be replaced with lugs, and the panel would be fed from a 100 amp service disconnect switch on the new wall. In the addition, a new 200 amp panel would be installed to power the addition, the new kitchen, and the new heat pump. The building contractor's information about the county's requirement for panels to be the same size raises questions about local interpretations or amendments to the NEC. It is essential to verify this with the county building department. If the county's requirement is based on a local amendment, it must be followed. If it is simply a misunderstanding, it may be possible to proceed with the proposed installation, provided it meets the NEC and other applicable codes. If the county allows the proposed installation, it is important to ensure that all aspects of the installation comply with the NEC. This includes proper sizing of conductors, overcurrent protection devices, grounding and bonding, and working space. The conductors feeding the existing panel from the 100 amp service disconnect switch must be sized appropriately for the 100 amp load. The overcurrent protection device in the service disconnect switch must also be rated at 100 amps. The new 200 amp panel in the addition must be sized to handle the loads it will serve. A load calculation must be performed to determine the minimum ampacity required for the panel. The conductors feeding the new panel must be sized appropriately for the calculated load, and the overcurrent protection device must be rated accordingly. The grounding and bonding systems for both panels must comply with the NEC. This includes grounding the neutral conductor at the service entrance, bonding all metallic enclosures and equipment, and providing a grounding electrode system consisting of ground rods or other approved electrodes. Adequate working space must be provided around both panels. This includes clear space in front of the panels, as well as sufficient lighting and ventilation. In addition to the NEC, other codes and standards may apply to the installation. These may include local building codes, fire codes, and accessibility standards. It is important to be familiar with all applicable codes and standards before beginning any electrical work. The NEC is a comprehensive document, and it is essential to understand its requirements thoroughly. Some key sections of the NEC that are relevant to this situation include Article 100, which defines terms used in the code, Article 210, which covers branch circuits, Article 215, which covers feeders, Article 220, which covers load calculations, Article 225, which covers outside branch circuits and feeders, Article 230, which covers services, Article 250, which covers grounding and bonding, Article 310, which covers conductors for general wiring, Article 408, which covers switchboards, switchgear, and panel boards. Some key concepts from these articles include the definition of a service, which is the conductors and equipment for delivering electric power from the serving utility to the wiring system of the premises served, the requirements for branch circuits, which are the circuits that supply power to individual outlets in lighting fixtures, the requirements for feeders, which are the circuits that supply power from the service to panel boards, the methods for calculating loads, which are used to determine the required ampacity of conductors and overcurrent protection devices, the requirements for outside branch circuits and feeders, which apply to circuits that run outside the building, the requirements for services, which cover the installation of the service entrance conductors, the service disconnecting means, and the service grounding electrode system, the requirements for grounding and bonding, which are essential for electrical safety, the requirements for conductors, which specify the types of conductors that are permitted for different applications and the ampacity ratings of conductors, the requirements for switchboards, switchgear, and panel boards, which cover the installation and wiring of these electrical distribution devices. In addition to these general requirements, there are also specific requirements that apply to certain types of installations, such as dwelling units, commercial buildings, and industrial facilities. It is important to consult the NEC for the specific requirements that apply to the installation being performed. Electrical work should always be performed by qualified and licensed electricians. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to have the necessary training and experience to perform the work safely. A qualified electrician will be familiar with the NEC and other applicable codes and standards. It will also have the necessary tools and equipment to perform the work properly. When hiring an electrician, it is important to verify that they are licensed and insured. A licensed electrician has met the requirements of the state or local jurisdiction to perform electrical work. An insured electrician has liability insurance that will protect the homeowner in case of accidents or damage. Before hiring an electrician, it is also a good idea to get references from previous customers. This will provide valuable insights into the electrician's quality of work and customer service. It is also important to get a written estimate from the electrician before any work is started. The estimate should include a detailed description of the work to be performed, the materials to be used, and the total cost of the project. The estimate should also specify the payment terms and the warranty that is provided. During the electrical work, it is important to communicate with the electrician and ask any questions that arise. The electrician should be able to explain the work being performed and answer any questions clearly and concisely. After the electrical work is completed, it is important to inspect the work and ensure that it meets the requirements of the NEC and other applicable codes and standards. If there are any concerns, they should be addressed with the electrician immediately. Finally, it is important to keep a record of all electrical work that is performed. This record should include the date of the work, the name of the electrician, a description of the work performed, and the cost of the project. This record will be useful for future maintenance and repairs. In conclusion, while the NEC doesn't explicitly forbid multiple panels with differing ratings, local interpretations and amendments can influence the permissibility of such installations. Thorough communication with the local building department is paramount to ensure compliance and a safe electrical system. The NEC provides a comprehensive set of rules for electrical installations, and it is important to understand these rules thoroughly before performing any electrical work. When in doubt, always consult with a qualified and licensed electrician. In the scenario described, the key is to have a clear understanding of the local regulations and to present a well-reasoned argument that the proposed installation meets the intent of the NEC by providing a safe and reliable electrical system for the residents. This includes demonstrating that the load calculations are accurate, that the grounding and bonding systems are properly installed, and that adequate working space is provided around the panels. It also includes being prepared to address any concerns that the building department may have and to make any necessary modifications to the installation to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and standards. We remember that electrical safety is paramount, and it is always better to err on the side of caution. If there is any doubt about the safety or compliance of an electrical installation, it is best to consult with a qualified professional. The information provided here is for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with a qualified and licensed electrician before performing any electrical work.